Forget New Year, New You. This season is about slowing down, locking the doors, and cozying up at home with the one you really want to do nothing with. Your dog. After the holiday chaos, those quiet nights with a blanket, a podcast, and your pup feel like the reset you actually need. Ollie helps make those moments easier with fresh protein-packed meals made from real human-grade ingredients, so your dog can enjoy some quality comfort food too. Choose from 5 recipes and get a personalized plan for your dog's needs. Meals arrive perfectly proportioned with a scoop and storage container, so serving is fast and mess-free. And with Ollie's in-app on-demand health screenings, supporting your dog is easy, ensuring more cuddles for many years to come. Visit ollie.com/truecrime and use code TRUECRIME for 60% off your first box.
Detective Jack Murphy can read a crime scene like a book. When the naked, brutalized corpse of a narcotics cop is found, it's not the body that tells him a sick killer is on the loose, but the see no evil monkey figurine shoved down his throat. Then a high-profile judge is set on fire, another figurine left behind. Murphy has a guess what's next, but it's not what he expects in The Slowest Death by Rick Reed. Written by a 20-year veteran cop, The Slowest Death by Rick Reed is a hard-hitting and authentic police procedural, and it's on sale now everywhere ebooks are sold. Visit rickreadbooks.com for more info. This episode is also sponsored by Ellevest. If you're a woman and you're not investing, that could be like losing a fresh new Benjamin every day. That's why there's Ellevest, the online investment platform for women. Invest in specific life goals such as buying a house, starting a business, or retiring your way on your terms. All you have to do is get started. And now, Court Junkie listeners can receive $100 towards your first funded goal when you sign up with Ellevest. Visit ellevest.com/court. That's ELLEVEST.com/court to receive $100 towards your first funded goal. Now, on to today's episode.
My mom, and this is not me glorifying this lady that was so tragically taken, she was an absolute angel among us. She had a larger-than-life personality that really was suited well in sales. And I say larger-than-life, I don't mean that in an obnoxious way. She had one of those personalities that, she walked in the room and you wanted to be her friend. I don't know if you've seen pictures of her, but she just was strikingly beautiful. She was my very best friend.
That was Carl Carter Jr., talking about his mom, Beverly Carter, who was tragically murdered 3.5 years ago. One night in September 2014, his whole life changed after getting a phone call from his dad.
On Thursday, September 25th, I got a call from my dad at, something like 8:30, 8:45 at night. And I was kind of unwinding from the day, and Dad said, "Hey, son, have you heard from your mom?" "No, I haven't." He said, "I've been calling her and texting her, and she's not answering. She was going to show property this afternoon at 6, but I haven't heard from her,
50-year-old Beverly Carter had thought she was going to meet a couple who had expressed interest in a house that she was showing. She was a successful real estate agent in Little Rock, Arkansas, and there was a house in the nearby town of Scott that the couple had said they wanted to see. It was at 5:37 p.m. when she called her husband, Carl, to let him know that she would be making a stop prior to coming home for the day. She gave him the address, 14202 Old River Drive, and she was excited when she told him that it was a possible cash sale. But when 8:30 p.m. rolled around, Carl still hadn't heard from her, and he was worried. At first, Carl Jr. thought his dad might be overreacting.
And so, being a typical real estate kid, I know what this profession is like. When a realtor is unable to get to their phone, it's usually a great sign. It means that they're right in the thick of a a conversation with their client or they're writing an offer. And so, I'm just kind of like, oh, Dad, kind of rolling my eyes that Dad, she's fine. Just give her a little bit more time. And he was persistent. And I said, well, Dad, I'll get up. I live close to my mom's real estate office. And Dad and Mom lived close to where this home that my mom had told my dad she was going to show these clients. And I said, well, you go to that house. I'll go to Mom's office. We'll see if she's there, and then this will be done.
So Carl Jr. went to Beverly's real estate office, while Carl Sr. went to the house on Old River Drive, where Beverly was supposed to meet the couple. When Carl Sr. pulled up to the house, he saw that Beverly's brown Cadillac SUV was parked in the driveway, and when he walked up to the vehicle, he could see that her purse was still inside. The door to the home was wide open, and so he went inside, searching for his wife. But there was no trace of her anywhere.
And so we both arrived at our destinations around the same time. And I called Dad and I said, Dad, the office is dark. There's no one here. And he said, well, son, your mom's car's here, but your mom's missing. Like she's not here. He goes, I'm looking everywhere. And you could hear he was, frantic because he was like, son, I've gone up in the attic and he's gone into this vacant home and just, torn the place apart trying to find her. And it's lakefront property and there were no utilities. And so it's, quite dark that night. And, I joined him out there not too long after that. And it was just this horrifying, just this feeling of like, where in the world could she be? There's her car. There's her purse. What scenario makes this okay?
When they went through her purse, only two things seemed to be missing: the door lock to the house and Beverly's cell phone. In today's episode, I'm going to take you through the heartbreaking murder of a beloved wife and mother of three, Beverly Carter. You're going to hear more from Carl Jr., one of Beverly's sons, who's going to give us a rare glimpse of what it's like to not only go through the tragedy his family endured, but to then have to sit through and participate in the trial of the person who senselessly killed her and showed absolutely no remorse for it. I also want to give you a disclaimer about today's episode. There is some inappropriate language in some of the trial testimony you're going to hear, so if you have children in the room, you may want to listen when they're not around. Listener discretion is advised. This is Jillian, and you are listening to Court Junkie, episode 47. After talking to his dad and hearing that his mom's car with her purse inside was still at the home, but with no sign of his mom, Carl Jr. rushed over to the house to wait for police, knowing that timing was crucial.
We knew instantly that something is wrong and something's bad wrong, because we knew that my mom would never get in someone else's car. And if she did, she'd never leave her purse behind. We had this sinking feeling that something very, very bad had happened. And the law enforcement, whenever they arrived, there were probably 3 or 4 cars. And so while we appreciated that a bunch, there was a presence, we are on this, we've got to move and we've got to move fast and we need, every cop in the whole world, and we need to be knocking on doors, and we need, and they weren't moving as fast as we wanted them to. And in looking in retrospect, everyone was a suspect, including my dad, that has shown up at that house and put his fingerprints all over everything.
Nevertheless, the police canvassed the neighborhood, asking if anyone had seen or heard anything, and they got lucky. One neighbor told them that he saw a, quote, skinny white man pull up to the house in a black mid-sized car right around the time Beverly disappeared. The car was there for about 20 to 30 minutes, and when the neighbor looked again, it was backed up to the front door of the house. And later that night, something else happened. Sometime after midnight, Beverly's husband, Carl Sr., received several strange text messages from her phone, 3 in a row. The first one simply read, "Yes." The second read, "Sorry, phone been dead." And the third, "Having drinks now." But Carl Sr. knew that those text messages were not from his wife. By the next morning, police had sealed off the house on Old River Drive as a possible crime scene. Meanwhile, Beverly's fellow real estate agents and other real estate agents in the community were conducting searches of their own and passing out flyers with Beverly's photo on them. And the way the community rallied around the Carter family to try and find her was memorable to Carl Jr.
One thing that maybe added to the shock, not just the, oh my goodness, my mom is missing, my mom's gone, but the community came out in droves. I mean, so like during the search, to hear the investigators tell it, they're like, the public demanded help. And so we had to work with the public to include them in searches that wouldn't compromise their own investigation. And people were, this where Mom was taken was a somewhat rural spot outside of Little Rock. And, you see these strangers that are on these ATVs. And I mean, there were people that even rented a helicopter. And it's almost hard to describe how many people that didn't even know us. They saw it on the news, they got in their car, and then just came to help.
The community searches, however comforting they may have been, unfortunately didn't turn up any signs of Beverly. But just 3 days after her disappearance, on September 28th, a big break in the case. Police issued an arrest warrant for a 33-year-old man named Aaron Lewis. The charge? 1 count of kidnapping. Aaron Lewis was listed as a white male, 5 feet 11 inches tall, and weighing approximately 156 pounds. He had brown hair and brown eyes, and according to police, should be considered armed and dangerous. Aaron wasn't known to the Carter family, but he was known to the police, mostly for theft and failure to appear in court charges. But he did serve 6 years in prison in Louisiana for robbing a bank, and had been sentenced to another 6 years in 2010 for a theft charge, but had been released on parole in August 2013 for good behavior. Prior to police announcing to the public that an arrest warrant had been issued for Aaron, they had been following a lead from a listing notebook they had found in Beverly's vehicle. There was a listing for the house Beverly had been showing, and attached to that listing was an email address and phone number. Both were fake, but investigators were able to trace them to Aaron Lewis. So a couple detectives went to Aaron's house and sat outside, watching and waiting. They wanted to see if Aaron matched the neighbor's description of the skinny white man with brown hair and brown eyes. Sure enough, as they were sitting in their vehicle, a man matching that very description walked out of the house and got into his black car. As he pulled out, he saw the detectives watching him, and so he sped away, with the detectives following close behind. Aaron didn't make it far before he crashed his car, trying to quickly make a 90-degree turn. Detectives pulled up behind the wreck and watched as Aaron got out, his face bloodied. They took photos of him and then accompanied him to Baptist Health Hospital in Little Rock. While detectives were outside waiting for Aaron to finish being treated for his injuries, and while they were waiting on a judge to sign the arrest warrant, they were shocked to find out that Aaron had checked himself out of the hospital. He was now on the run. Police released the photo they had taken of Aaron after the accident, with that haunting, bloody face, and asked for the public to call 911 if they encountered him. And call 911 they did. At 9:45 a.m. on September 29th, 4 days after Beverly's disappearance, Aaron was spotted at a bus stop.
911.
Hey, I'm sitting over here. They're looking for a guy here that was involved in the realtor being kidnapped, and this guy looks like him, and he is nervous, and he's out here at a bus stop.
What bus stop?
Green Mountain Drive in Rainwood.
Hold on just a minute.
I mean, it might not be him. He's going into the subway now.
Okay, wait a minute.
Yeah.
And what color shirt and pants is he wearing?
He's wearing a black shirt and some jean shorts. And he went into the subway.
All right, we'll get someone out there.
Okay, now I had a guy walk out there and talk to him. I just went out there to see him. He says they think it's him.
Okay, but don't tip him off or anything. We'll get someone out there.
Yeah, he's in the subway right now.
All right, thank you.
All right, bye.
Aaron became suspicious that he had been spotted, and so he took off, running to an apartment complex across the street, with the witness and several others chasing after him. When police arrived and had the complex surrounded, Aaron jumped from a second-story window and attempted to flee, but was immediately apprehended. But where was Beverly? At a press conference, investigators updated reporters and told them that Aaron was being questioned, but that Beverly was still missing. "I'm hopeful she's still alive," the Pulaski County Sheriff said. "We told her family Friday night that we will do our best to get her back home safely, and that's what we're trying to do." He said that depending on Beverly's condition, Aaron may face additional charges. Investigators interviewed Aaron for about 12 hours, and sure enough, Aaron confessed, but only to the kidnapping. According to Aaron, he arranged to meet with Beverly at the house, saying that he and his wife were interested in a potential cash sale. His wife, however, didn't go with him, and when he met Beverly, once they got inside the house, he said he took out a taser and told her that she was about to, quote, have a bad day. He said he kidnapped her, but that he did it with a partner, a man named Trevor, and that he didn't know where Beverly was. He then played a recorded message he had on his phone of Beverly telling her husband to do what he says and to not call the police.
"Carl, it's Beverly. I just want to let you know I'm okay. I haven't been hurt. Just do what he says and please don't call the police. If you call the police, it could be bad. Just want you to know I love you very much."
Aaron said they had kidnapped Beverly for ransom money and that she could very well still be alive. He told them that time was running out for her. "Are you guaranteeing me this woman's alive?" one of the investigators asked him. "Depending on how long it takes," Aaron responded. "How long can a person survive without food and water since yesterday? You'll figure it out." He offered to take investigators to the place where he last saw her. So with Aaron directing them, they drove to 2 different places, about 30 miles away. But although Aaron claimed that Beverly had been there were no signs at either place that she ever had. But also near the area was a place where Aaron had previously worked, an old concrete plant called Argos. Investigator Jeff Allison asked Aaron if Beverly would be there, and Aaron said, "I put her in a cement mixer." Investigators then searched Argos, which was in Cabot, Arkansas, about a half hour from where Beverly was last seen at the house on Old River Drive. It was there that investigators found Beverly's body, bound by duct tape and buried in a shallow grave. While Aaron was on his way to a court appearance on the kidnapping charge, he spoke to reporters as he was being led from the prison to a waiting car with bars on the windows. He told them that he wasn't the one responsible for Beverly's death, but when a reporter asked, "Why Beverly?" his answer revealed just how targeted the murder really was.
Aaron, did you kill Beverly Carter?
No.
You did not?
No.
Who did?
I had a co-defendant. I haven't seen her for 2 days. Now they're showing me pictures of this. I haven't seen her.
How can you explain what happened?
I had a co-defendant, Trevor.
Who's Trevor?
He's Air Force at the military base.
And what's your relation to Trevor?
They want, he's got texts back and forth to me and him, and then they wanted my phone.
Why Beverly? Why Beverly?
She was a rich broker.
Do you have anything to say to the family?
Sorry.
What else do you want to say to her family?
Sorry.
Why Beverly?
Because she was just a woman that worked alone, a rich broker.
Beverly and Carl Carter Sr. had been married for 35 years and had met when they were young, when Beverly was just 16 and Carl was 19. They got pregnant and then married shortly after and had 3 children total. Carl Jr. told me that he and his mom were extremely close and that his mom was a successful real estate agent, but it hadn't started out that way.
I was the oldest of 3 boys, and we grew up very, very poor. And kind of in a rural southern part of the state, and my dad decided that, I guess I was 4th grade or something, and my dad and mom decided that they wanted kind of a fresh new start, and so they moved to the capital city, Little Rock, and still very poor, but, they had kind of big dreams of turning their, being more successful in life. And anyway, through that, my mom, up to that point, had essentially been a stay-at-home mom, and she got into the workforce and was very good. She was kind of in administrative roles. My dad built homes and did remodeling. Later in my life, my mom got into real estate, and she was just wildly successsul. And it really changed my parents' whole lifestyle. They were able to get into a nicer home, and they were able to, buy, they drove nice cars.
Once Beverly became a real estate agent, their family lifestyle changed, only for Beverly to have been reportedly targeted because of it. Aaron pleaded not guilty to charges of kidnapping, capital murder, and 4 counts of being a felon in possession of a firearm. He reportedly at first said in court that he wanted to plead guilty and, quote, get this over with as quick as I can. But after speaking with his attorney, he entered the not guilty plea. After his appearance, investigators told reporters that Aaron was the sole suspect in the murder, that they had spoken to the man named Trevor and had ruled him out as having any involvement. A few weeks after his arrest, Aaron spoke to a news reporter from prison, again denying that he had murdered Beverly, but insisting that the whole thing had been an accident. He said he had been cheating on his wife with her, that her death was an accident, and he had panicked. He also denied the kidnapping charge, saying that Beverly had willingly gone with him. The kidnapping is false. Somebody goes with you on their own free will. They're not being kidnapped, he said. Investigators weren't done piecing all their evidence together. On October 30th, another arrest in the case was made. This time, Aaron's wife, 41-year-old Crystal Lowry, was arrested and charged with capital murder and kidnapping. Investigators believed that she had been an accomplice. 9 months after her arrest, however, Crystal pleaded guilty and agreed to 30 years in prison in exchange for testifying against Aaron at his trial. And investigators didn't know it at the time, but Crystal's testimony would end up being one of the biggest parts of their case against Aaron, because just a month prior to trial, the prosecution's case would face some major hurdles. If you enjoy this podcast, you will love Suspect Convictions, hosted by Scott Reeder, a veteran reporter with 30 years of experience. The focus of the podcast is questions of guilt or innocence, and it covers fascinating cases of wrongful conviction, edge-of-your-seat stories, and evidence that will have you second-guessing what it means to be innocent until proven guilty. Produced in conjunction with National Public Radio affiliates, Suspect Convictions has been rated as high as number 2 in the world on iTunes overall charts, and it reflects NPR's commitment to quality reporting. Suspect Convictions is right up my alley. I'm not kidding when I say that if you like a good quality podcast that's extremely interesting and thought-provoking, make sure to subscribe. Not only do I love the quality, the reporting, the storytelling, and the host, Scott, but I love that each season is devoted to a different case, and they feature a ton of fantastic guests to discuss the cases, including Rabia Chowdhury from Undisclosed, Aphrodite Jones, Bob Ruff, and more. Suspect Convictions is available on iTunes, Stitcher, and SoundCloud, or you can check them out at suspectconvictions.com. This episode is also sponsored by Leesa. Driven by the mission to provide a better place to sleep for everybody, Leesa is an innovative direct-to-consumer online mattress brand that is also socially conscious. In fact, for every 10 mattresses Leesa sells, they donate one to a shelter through their 110 program. They also plant one tree for every mattress sold and donate 1% of each employee's time to volunteer for local causes. Not to mention, with a patented universal adaptive feel, Leesa is designed for all types of sleepers and features 3 premium foam layers, including 2-inch Avena foam top layer for cooling and breathability, 2-inch memory foam middle layer for body contouring and pressure relief, and 6-inch dense core support foam for durability and structure, which works for sleepers of all sizes. And now, Leesa is continuing to expand its offerings to include the Leesa pillow, blanket, foundation, and frame. No wonder it's a Forbes Top 20 startup to watch. Try a Leesa mattress in your own home for 100 nights risk-free. Available in the US, UK, Canada, and Germany online with free shipping, this 100% American-made mattress ships compressed in a box right to your door. Or try it at the Leesa Dream Gallery in Soho, New York City, and Virginia Beach, and over 80 West Elm stores nationwide. And now, for President's Day, you can get $125 off the Leesa mattress, plus a free pillow, when you go to leesa.com/junkie. That's leesa.com/junkie for $125 off the Leesa mattress, plus a free pillow. Offer valid until February 28th. In December 2015, Judge Herbert Wright shocked the prosecution when he issued a ruling throwing out a majority of evidence investigators had collected. He ruled that evidence from Aaron's home and his car would be inadmissible in court, including strands of Beverly's hair and duct tape that had been found in the trunk of Aaron's car. Judge Wright ruled that the state wasn't able to prove that they had legally obtained that evidence and said the warrants were overly broad. He also suppressed several damning statements Aaron had made to investigators, citing Aaron's claim that he had asked several times to have an attorney present, and yet the interrogation had continued.
I'll tell you, upon learning that they were going to throw out evidence, and so, namely, whenever my mom was kidnapped, she was put in the trunk of a car. And there are 3 points of the story that I know of what happened to my mom. And one is that you thought so little of this person that you would take a living, breathing human being and my mama and duct tape her and put her in the trunk of a car. And so that's so demeaning, so horrifying. And then we get news that strands of her hair and remains of duct tape where she had gotten her hands free while in the trunk of that car, that they weren't going to be admissible in the trial because of, the steps taken to obtain them weren't evidently in the right order. And it was like, I remember having conversations with the rest of my family, and it's like, just because of these rules and procedures that, and I realize why they serve and they protect all of us, but it was like, on technicalities, this dude could get off.
Aaron's defense team also tried to have Crystal blocked from testifying against him, citing marital privilege, but the judge rejected that claim. Crystal would be allowed to testify. Erin's trial started in January 2016 at the Pulaski County Courthouse in Little Rock. In her opening statements, prosecutor Barbara Mariani called Beverly a wife, mother, grandmother, and $1 million real estate agent. She told the jury that the evidence will show that Erin and Crystal conspired to kidnap Beverly. Erin met Beverly at the house for their scheduled appointment, and as Beverly was walking up the stairs, he told her, quote, "You're about to have a bad day." He then pulled out his taser. Mariani said that Erin then made Beverly record that ransom message for her husband on his phone. He bound her with duct tape and then backed his car up to the door and forced her into his trunk. He took a picture of her while she was inside and then proceeded to go back to the home he shared with Crystal. When Erin and Crystal learned that Beverly didn't have much money in the bank, Erin wrapped her face with duct tape, which created a, quote, "mask of death," and suffocated her. He then took her to the woods and dumped her body. Sometime later, he went to Walmart to purchase a shovel and topsoil, which Mariani said was caught on surveillance video. She told the jury that Erin is now claiming that Beverly died during a sex act with Crystal, but she said they'll hear from Crystal, who will testify that she had never had any physical contact with her. The last thing that Beverly experienced was unspeakable horror at that man's hands, Mariani said, pointing towards Erin at the defense table. When it was their turn, defense attorney Bill James described a different Beverly Carter, saying that everyone has a secret life that nobody knows about. He said Beverly was depressed and had marital problems. Her husband, Carl, was recovering from a stroke, wasn't employed, and they were having difficulties with money. He said that she had just turned 50 years old and was going through a midlife crisis, citing some cosmetic surgery procedures she had done and the new Cadillac she had bought. He said Beverly and Erin had exchanged about 50 text messages and that he believed they were really talking about something other than a house. "It's about a hookup," he said. He told the jury that the defense would prove that Beverly willingly met up with Erin and Crystal, and said the state would not be able to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that Erin had caused her death. "There's no evidence that it was anything but an accident," he said. The state's first witness was Carl Jr. He testified that his parents' marriage wasn't perfect and had bumps along the way, but that they had worked through them and that their relationship had never been better at the time of her death. He said that Beverly's realty sales were down drastically and that she only had $100 in her bank account when she disappeared. He said she wouldn't have had any money to pay a ransom. The voice memo from Erin's phone was played for the jury, and Carl Jr. positively identified her voice for them. He told me what testifying at the trial was like for him.
You would think that it was like, doing a State of the Union address or something. I mean, it was one of the most nerve-wracking things, like leading up to it. And then, I couldn't, this is all probably, all these things, but it was all very new to me. I had to be kept in a separate room and I couldn't hear or be any part of the court proceedings until I had testified. And as my role in testifying, at least initially, I took the stand twice. I testified and then I did the victim impact statement for our family. And whenever I got up there and I saw Erin Lewis, and then also knowing that my role, my purpose for being up there was to really serve as a character witness for my mom and to identify her voice on what we call a ransom recording. It was a recording that Erin made my mom do that was telling my dad not to call the cops and to be cooperative. And the fear, and I don't mean like fear like jeepers, I'm nervous, I'm in Carnegie Hall type nervous. It was like, to my left, there are jurors, and I see in their faces, and this is, quick judgments. It's like a couple of them look kind of mean. A couple of them look like they don't want to be here. One of them kind of looks sleepy. I need them to wake up right now. And you see that justice for your mom rests on these people to your left, and then to my right is this person that's destroyed life as we knew it. It was so hard. Now, I will say I was really, really nervous about best representing my mom for the prosecution. But whenever the defense got up to ask me questions, every nerve completely went away. And it was just as if, and I don't know why, but I was like, I went from nerves to kind of this, it really wasn't anger, but it was just kind of this feeling of, you've got some nerve. And so I answered the questions boldly, directly, and, it was, the whole process was kind of surreal.
One of Beverly's coworkers and friend testified that she also received a text message from Beverly's phone the night she died, saying that she was out, and she knew right away that it wasn't Beverly. She told the jury that they had a text code where if they were ever in distress, they would talk about a red folder. She said she texted Beverly's phone back and asked, "Where's the red folder?" but didn't receive any response. She too said Beverly and her husband had a good relationship, despite having problems years ago when their kids were young. She stated that Beverly had gotten cosmetic surgery because she wanted to look good for herself. When asked by defense attorney James if it was irrational for Beverly to have purchased a new Cadillac with so little money in the bank, she said no, that real estate agents had to look successful. She also pointed out that real estate agents' pay could vary. They could have $100 in the bank one month and $10,000 the next. Pulaski County Sheriff's Office investigator Drew Evans testified about Beverly's phone records. He said that he found an odd number that she had been communicating with that wasn't in her contacts. That same number was written on one of her notepads with the name Stephen Adams next to it. He said the number was a fake number from a Text Me app, but they were able to get the real number from the app, which led them to Aaron Lewis and Crystal Lowry. Evans said there were 49 text messages sent back and forth between Aaron and Beverly. The last phone call Beverly made was the call at 5:37 p.m. to her husband, Carl Sr. Evans told the jury that when he pulled data from Crystal Lowry's phone, he discovered that there were 102 messages between her and her husband that had been deleted. Investigator Michael Hendricks reviewed Beverly's computer on September 26, 2014. He said that on the day before her death, Beverly received an email with the subject line, "Listings," from a Stephen Adams. The email was traced back to Aaron Lewis's home, and the email itself had been created at 9:39 a.m. on September 24th, just minutes before the email was sent. Investigator Hendricks told the jury about riding in the squad car with Aaron when they were going to look at the two sites where Aaron said Beverly may be. He said Aaron admitted that he targeted Beverly after finding her online because she was a rich broker who worked alone. Aaron also told him that he had duct taped Beverly's hands and mouth before putting her in the trunk of his car. He said his motive was to ask for a $100,000 ransom. Hendricks also told the jury that he didn't find any evidence on Beverly's computer of any dating sites, nor any evidence that the history had been deleted. He said that most of the websites Beverly visited were sites about dieting or weight loss, or were related to her work. An FBI agent testified that Aaron had requested to speak with him about possibly going before a federal judge to plead guilty of kidnapping. He said Aaron told him that Trevor, his claimed co-defendant at the time, may have moved Beverly to a different location, and he didn't know where she was. Investigator Jeff Allison testified that Aaron told him that he had tasered Beverly and then kidnapped her, saying, quote, "I take credit for the shit I do." He recalled for the jury the wild goose chase that Aaron took them on, supposedly to find an alive Beverly Carter. and how on a hunch, he questioned Aaron whether Beverly could be at his old workplace at the concrete plant, which is where Beverly's body was ultimately found. On cross-examination, Allison was questioned about a statement he had made while interviewing one of Beverly's coworkers and friends. He had told her, quote, "Everybody has a secret life." Allison said he had been trying to get the coworker to tell him more about any personal issues Beverly may have been going through prior to her death. He said that the coworker told him that, quote, "If you knew Beverly, she was an open book." He also said he was not aware of Beverly having been on any kind of dating sites. Investigator J.P. Massiette discovered Beverly's body. He testified that investigators came across freshly dug dirt on the property and that they were able to find the shallow grave when they saw an elbow and fingers of a hand sticking out of the dirt. Photos of that were shown to the jury. Photos that seemed to have quite a bit of an effect, albeit one you wouldn't expect, on Aaron Lewis.
You know, that sweet jury, there was a screen that only they could see because there were pictures shown of my mom as they found her in that shallow grave. And I've heard, I had to hear the descriptions and I didn't see the pictures, but those poor people have to live the rest of their lives with those images in their mind sitting right in front of us. So my family is first row, but but where we had to sit because of that screen and the jury, we had to sit over immediately behind the defense. So Aaron Lewis was within 10 feet of me at all times. And I watched that last day. I didn't realize that whenever you're on trial that you can have endless supply of candy. And I watched him sit there, and I don't know if they were M&Ms or what they were, but he's popping M&Ms the entire day and breaking his neck to turn and to be able to watch these photos as they are going through them and showing the jury. And I was like, why would you want to see that? How can you just sit and turn and look at those while you're eating a snack?
Investigator Massiette testified that a roll of green duct tape was recovered from the scene. And when they recovered Beverly's body, they discovered that she had been bound with her hands taped behind her back, and her face, from her hairline to her chin, was tightly wrapped with the duct tape. A woman named Brittany Ballard, who works for a company called Elite Paralegal and Prisoner Services, testified that she posted a 22-page affidavit that Aaron had written to his Facebook page for him. The affidavit essentially claims that Aaron and his wife Crystal met Beverly on the casual encounters section of Craigslist, and that they arranged for the three of them to have a sexual encounter. Aaron said that after he had sex with Beverly, he left to go get Beverly's pills from her car, which was still at the house on Old River Drive. But when he got there, he said the place was crawling with police. He said Crystal texted him, quote, "Get home now." And when he got home, Beverly was dead. He said she had suffocated during oral sex with Crystal. Crystal begged him not to call the police, and so in a panic, they decided to bury her body. He said they clothed the body and he put duct tape over her face to keep insects away as he dug the grave. Crystal Lowry took the stand next to testify against her husband. Crystal told the court that she had met Aaron on Craigslist and that they had been married for a year. She said at the time of the kidnapping, they had broken up. However, he couldn't move out yet because he didn't have money, so she agreed to help him with his kidnapping plan. 2 weeks prior to Beverly's death is when the plotting began. She said they talked about targeting women in jobs where they would be working alone, like a real estate agent, a mail carrier, or an Avon lady. She said Aaron decided to target a married realtor because they made a lot of money and he could then request a ransom from that person's spouse. Aaron found Beverly's real estate bio online and then checked her Facebook page to see if she was married. Aaron came up with the idea for them to call themselves Steve and Crystal Adams and to ask Beverly to show them houses in a rural area. Crystal told the jury that she didn't want to be involved, but that she did speak to Beverly one time on the phone after Aaron told her to. Aaron then met up with Beverly at the home and abducted her. The plan was to take her right away to the Argos concrete plant where they would hold her, but when Aaron got there that night with Beverly, he said it wasn't a good option. Crystal said she was at her nursing clinical when Aaron texted her a photo of Beverly tied up in his trunk, which she had since deleted. She told him that she didn't want Beverly at their house, but that Aaron told her that he could get pulled over at any time and needed to come home. She said when she got home, Beverly was in the master bathroom. Aaron told her that Beverly didn't have any money on her, but that he wanted to go get her bank card from her purse, which was still at the house on Old River Drive. So Crystal watched over Beverly with the stun gun while Aaron went back to the house. But there were too many police on the scene at that time, and so he wasn't able to get it. The stun gun Crystal said they used was entered into evidence. When they learned that Beverly didn't have any money, they decided to kill her. Crystal said she wanted her out of the house. She wanted her gone. Permanently gone? The prosecutor asked. Yes, Crystal replied. But she hadn't seen you, the prosecutor pointed out. Crystal said that she had meds in the bathroom that she could have seen with Crystal's name on them, and she had seen Aaron's face. She said Aaron told her that he would take care of it, and he loaded Beverly up into his car and left. She said Beverly was still alive at this point. The prosecution presented a number of text messages from after Aaron left with Beverly from around 3:29 a.m. Crystal said she started texting Aaron because it was taking him a long time. Crystal wrote, WTF. Aaron responded, You sure you want me to do this? Crystal, do whatever you want. Good night. Aaron, I'm asking you. Crystal, such a fucking waste of time. Why don't you fuck her too? Aaron, you need to chill. Crystal, whatever. It don't take that long to do what you need to do. I'm not helping anymore. Crystal testified that when Aaron came home, he said to her, Look, I'm not fucked up about it. I don't have a conscience. I can turn it off and on like a switch. He told her that he had walked Beverly to the edge of the grass and then had choked her. She told the court that she had first told Aaron that she wouldn't help dispose of the body, but that he told her that all she would have to do is hold the flashlight. She and Aaron went to Walmart. She waited in the parking lot while Aaron went in and purchased a shovel and topsoil. The prosecution showed the jury photos and video of Aaron inside the Walmart on September 27th at 2:30 a.m., making the purchases. They then drove to the concrete plant, and she held the flashlight on her phone while Aaron buried the body. Crystal said that after they buried the body, they went to Waffle House. She started crying as she was testifying. The prosecutor asked her, I know you're crying now, but were you upset at the time? And Crystal responded that she was numb. She told the court that she has a 14-year-old daughter who was staying at a friend's house at the time. When asked why she didn't try saving Beverly, Crystal said there was no excuse. After he was arrested, Aaron sent her letters from jail, telling her to stick with what he said in the affidavit so they wouldn't get in trouble. Crystal said they never met Beverly on a dating site, never had sexual contact with her, and that if Beverly's death had been an accident, she wouldn't have pleaded guilty to murder and kidnapping. An analyst from the crime lab, who examines evidence for body fluids and fibers, told the court that there was no semen found on any items they looked at. And another analyst testified that the tape on Beverly's face had been wrapped around her head 6 times. Dr. Charles Cokes, the medical examiner who performed Beverly's autopsy, testified that Beverly had died from asphyxia due to airway obstruction, likely because of the duct tape wrapped around her face. He said she likely lost consciousness in under a minute and then died shortly after. He said Beverly was clothed when she died and that there was no evidence that she had been choked. He said that based on the autopsy, Beverly died within 24 hours of her disappearance. When asked if it was possible that she had died during a sex act, he said that it was, quote, theoretically possible, but that in his 30 years of practice, he had never seen that and couldn't find anything like that in the medical literature either. The state then rested their case. The first witness up for the defense was Beverly's husband, Carl Carter Sr. He was questioned by the defense about problems that he and Beverly had had in their marriage years and years prior, as well as their financial troubles. He said he had been upfront with the police about their problems because he had just wanted to find his missing wife. I asked Carl what that was like for his family, to have the defense calling his father to the stand as a witness for the man who had killed his mother.
We all knew from the second they said, the prosecutors, kind of called us in pre-trial and they're, kind of briefing us on kind of what to expect. And whenever they said, they were so nervous, I think, to tell us that, look, Carl Sr., it looks like the defense is going to put you on the stand. We all just kind of like sat back in our seats and we're like, sweet. Because we knew that chances, well, let me say this. We mostly knew that my dad would come across as the broken, sweet husband that he is. I will say, to give a totally honest answer, he can be he can kind of say it like it is sometimes too. And so there was a little bit of fear that he might get up there and express his extreme anger and frustration and all those words for Aaron Lewis. But all that to say, we had a lot of peace that defense strategy would backfire on them. And I honestly think that it did, because you could just tell, like, the jurors, it was like, this is gross. How dare you put this man on the stand? Some of those questions, like back whenever I was younger, like there had been some kind of domestic disputes and, some stuff that no one once aired publicly. But it was almost like my dad was very open, very honest, very transparent about it. And you could just see, like, in the room, like, as he was saying it was like, you kind of want to run up to the stand and give him a high five, because it's like, dude, way to go. Way to go. This is not going how the defense wanted it to.
When the prosecution cross-examined Carl Sr., they asked him about his last interaction with his wife the night she went missing. He said they had made dinner plans while on the phone, and that they told each other that they loved each other. I loved that woman with all my heart, he said. After Carl Sr. was done testifying, Aaron Lewis took his turn at the stand. He maintained his story from the affidavit, that he wasn't present when Beverly died during oral sex with Crystal, and that he had only thought about pleading guilty in order to save Crystal, someone he said he still loves even now. He said it was Crystal who told him about Beverly, saying that she had wanted to meet up with them for sex. He said Beverly willingly went with him that day and that they went back to their house. When Crystal got home, he went to go get meds from Beverly's car, but Crystal texted him to come back home. And when he got there, Crystal was freaking out and Beverly was on the bed, not moving. He said he wanted to call 911, but that Crystal wouldn't let him. And so they put her clothes back on and went to the Argos concrete plant to get rid of the body. And then the next night, they went back and buried it. He said he often told the investigators what they wanted to hear, but said he never told them that he committed murder. And as for the voice memo, where Beverly's voice can be heard asking her husband to pay a ransom, Aaron said that the voice on the memo wasn't Beverly, that it was 100% computer generated. He said he did it after Beverly's death, in case there was a reward he could collect and make money. In their closing arguments, prosecutor Barbara Mariani said that instead of proving reasonable doubt, the defense only presented Aaron's story, which was hurtful to Beverly's loved ones. It wasn't enough to watch her slowly, agonizingly die in terror. He continues the victimization past her death, she said. Aaron's attorney, Bill James, however, said in his closing that Beverly had an affair and that it had ended the way that Aaron said it had. The jury took less than an hour to announce their verdict: guilty of capital murder and kidnapping.
I've seen the movies. I've seen the Datelines. I've seen, all of this stuff that you see the victim and their families, back on they're on the front row and the verdict's read, and then you see this emotional, just kind of over the top, kind of there's cheering, there's crying, there's all these things, and I never understood it. It's like, what? Like, what is that? Like, why? What is this about? Is this a show? Is this whatever? And it's nothing I could ever identify with. And when the jury came back in, and they only deliberated, like, it felt like 5 minutes. I think all in all it was something like 40 minutes or something. But and they came in and read that. Every single emotion went through my body at the exact same time. And so it was like all of a sudden I was that person.
Aaron was automatically sentenced to life in prison without parole on the capital murder charge, and the jury sentenced him to life in prison for the kidnapping charge. Aaron could have been facing the death penalty, but the prosecution decided not to go for that after consulting with Beverly's family.
We went into our first meeting with the prosecutors very much pro-death penalty. Like, he took her from us. He should not get to hang around. It was the prosecutors that opened our eyes to what death penalty really looks like. And you also have to keep away with this, that we had been victimized so much with this dude. I don't know if you know this, but a local news station was able to get into the prison, and they got an exclusive 3-hour interview with him. And people were fired from the prison because that never should have happened. And that's just one way. And you probably know about the 20-page document, handwritten document that Aaron Lewis did, that, he said that, these hurtful things about my mom, and that my mom wasn't actually kidnapped, that my mom died in a sexual act with he and his wife. And it's just absurd. And so they opened their eyes to the fact that this man who has no issue continuing to try to hurt us, he's only worried about himself, he would continue while on death row to have a voice. And they talked to us about some of the avenues that you would have, and these groups that go out, and try to get these people off death row, and that he could continue hurting us. And then they also brought up a good point, and it kind of appealed to our faith. And they said, "Look, we're just pointing this out. Will you be able to, be at peace knowing that it was your decision that he was put to death?" Oh, and another thing, they gave us the heads up that a death penalty conviction is harder to obtain. And so there was a fear that it's like, oh gosh, well, okay, so we've got this faith piece, we've got this harder conviction piece, we've got this, he's going to continue to be a big mouthpiece. Let's just go this other route so that he's thrown into a cell and forgotten about.
After the trial had concluded, Carl Jr. wrote a thank you note on his Facebook page, thanking everyone who had been involved in convicting Aaron Lewis, including Crystal Lowry. About Crystal, he wrote, "Your actions in relation to the death of my mother were inexcusable and nothing short of evil. However, I thank you, and I applaud you for doing the right thing in court. I hope and pray that someone will tell your daughter how brave you were."
That was tough. She very much played a part in my mother's murder. She's very, very evil, but she was cooperative with the prosecuting, attorney. She took the plea deal. She was never caught in a lie when she started that cooperation with them. And, I told you I was sitting on the front row of that there in the courtroom. And the defense she was up on the stand, and the defense was going to town on her to just bash, bash, bash to ruin her credibility. And she was far late to the game, but she finally, in that moment, was doing the right thing. And she was being very brave. Because these people, they were destroying her. And so the judge called for us to take a break, whatever that's called. And as I got up, I felt compelled to mouth thank you to her. And she replied back, I get emotional. She replied back, "I'm so sorry." And I don't know why that's so meaningful to me, but it was a good moment, and I'm thankful that I had that moment. So,
after Beverly's death, Carl Jr. found himself traveling around the country, talking to people in the real estate industry about what had happened to his mom. Because the thing is, many real estate agents are vulnerable to danger. But one day, he said something happened that made him certain of what he wanted to do next. Something that would honor his mother's memory and help other real estate agents at the same time.
An agent came up to me at the conclusion of a session, and tears streaming down her face, and she said, she thanked me for being there, and she said that she had never told anyone. She hadn't gone to law enforcement. She hadn't even told her own husband. But 2 weeks prior, she had been raped while showing a property. And she blamed herself, and she's like, I didn't verify their identity before, then, this and this and this. And I just kind of stopped her. It's like, stop blaming yourself. But all I was able to give her was a hug. And I know that was meaningful, but that wasn't enough for me. Like, I wanted to give her everything, but I had nothing to give. And anyway, so from then, it's like the lights came on, and I was like, okay, this nonprofit will be about keeping this message top of mind, so training, and then helping sweet people like that lady that had been victimized, getting them in touch with resources, giving them financial support. Because she's sitting there, and she's standing there, and she's crying, and she's like, real estate's all I've ever done. Now I'm terrified to go to work, but I can't do anything else, and I have bills to pay. And I tell you, I think of her as often as I think of my mom in this nonprofit.
And so the Beverly Carter Foundation was born.
So what we do at the foundation is we travel across the country, and we train agents on ways to stay safe. And one thing that's great is that it's not a stale message. It's like, assume always, as we build these materials for these agents, that the absolute worst student you could ever imagine is sitting in the room. And that's me, by the way, because I will be so bored, tune out, and I'm on Facebook quicker than anything. And these agents, I'm telling you, if you take something that's actionable and not just anecdotal, don't walk in dark alleys and, keep your face out of your phone, real stuff and tips and tricks. And we're uniquely positioned because we're always talking about this. So we're able to kind of compile the latest and greatest. But so it's all about education. And then, of course, we also are kind of an information source whenever we learn of ways that, or trends of ways that agents are being targeted. And so, there are any number of things. We have, there's kind of a recent epidemic around the country where these bad guys are calling and saying they're with law enforcement and they need assistance immediately. They're posing as cops to get these realtors to meet them. So when we hear of these types of things, we try to get those messages out via our communication channels so that we can hopefully save lives, because people will be aware of the way that others have been deceived. And then, of course, lastly, and certainly not least, is that we can be a resource for precious people that have been victimized, whether that's, through sexual assault or theft, and on the list goes. So
it's been over 2 years since Aaron's conviction, and each year so far, Carl Jr. brings champagne and chocolates over to the prosecutor's office as a thank you. He also maintains relationships with a number of the jurors he met after the trial had concluded. You can learn more about Carl's work at the Beverly Carter Foundation and learn about how you can help by going to beverlycarterfoundation.org. And that's all for this episode. A special thank you to Carl Carter Jr. for being so open and kind and for speaking with me about his mom's case. Let me know what you think about what you heard today by either joining my discussion group on Facebook at courtjunkie.com/Facebook, finding me on Twitter at courtjunkiepod, on Instagram at courtjunkie, or you can email me at podcast@courtjunkie.com. As a reminder, if you'd like to hear these episodes earlier than everyone else and without all the ads, you can get early ad-free access by donating as little as $1 a month. Just go to courtjunkie.com/support and you'll be directed to my Patreon page. When you sign up with Patreon, you'll get access to an exclusive RSS feed of this podcast that you can add to whatever podcast listening app you normally use. And lastly, remember to check out Suspect Convictions, because if you like this show, you will love that one too. Hosted by Scott Reeder, a veteran reporter with 30 years of experience, produced in conjunction with National Public Radio affiliates, Suspect Convictions has been rated as high as number 2 in the world on iTunes overall charts and reflects NPR's commitment to quality reporting. Tune in to hear fascinating cases of wrongful conviction and evidence that will have you second-guessing what it means to be innocent until proven guilty. Right up our alley. Suspect Convictions is available on iTunes, Stitcher, and SoundCloud, or you can check them out at suspectconvictions.com. Thanks again for listening. Until next time.